Hello and welcome to the Warhammer Podcast, episode 66. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-host, Eric.
How's it going?
We have a important episode this week. With 10th edition around the corner, we've been talking about things that are probably correct to be making content for. And in addition to the oodles of intro to X Faction videos that us and everyone else will want to pump out, with a huge influx of new players, we'll probably want to be able to give basic advice and point to things to help people out when they're starting.
Yeah, it should be helpful.
So today we are going to do some YouTube clickbait. We have 9 tips for when you're buying into 40k or AOS, doesn't matter, but we're theming this on 40k for 10th edition.
I do enjoy that we fail so bad at clickbait that we couldn't even come up with the 10th just to make it.
Yeah, it's extra spicy because it's 9. It makes you think about, like, is there a secret bonus one? And then you won't be disappointed until the end of the episode when there isn't.
Yeah, there's that hidden one. You just have to find it in the code.
But while this is aimed at new people, it is very important for you, dear audience, to add on to this list. So when we're done with it, I want you all to go to the YouTube comments section and give more advice. Preferably good advice, but it's a YouTube comment section.
That's asking a whole lot.
And hopefully we can help people when they try to join the game. But without any further ado, let's jump into the clickbait proper with our top 9 pieces of advice.
Sounds good. Alright, so let's start with the first one being primarily with 9th edition, a giant fucking ripoff.
And it'll probably move into 10th, if not being worse.
But maybe not. There is some hope. But what are we at right now with core rules?
Okay, so if you're starting off 10th edition with like the intro set, you get a rule book. Congratulations, you're done. You can skip this one. If you're starting off 10th edition fresh after the fact, one of the first things you'll think to pick up is a core rule book, because of course you need the core rules to play.
That's a valid assumption that one would think starting a new hobby.
Currently, the core rulebook is $70 US.
Nice.
For a gigantic tome with like 40 pages that matter.
There's some nice pictures in it though.
Yeah, but it's 368 pages in a hardcover.
Yeah, not particularly easily referenced.
No. Mid-game, this would be a nightmare while you're learning. Far better is ironically something that's targeting competitive players. The current mission pack for Chapter Approved, all of them except for like one where they cheaped out in the middle of the edition and got called out for it, have come with the entire rules of the game in the back. These mission packs are $30. There's a new one every change of season.
Yeah.
But for $30, you get all of the stuff for competitive play, which you may or may not want. And in addition, as a bonus, in this tiny little softcover book that is much easier to flip through, you have what is listed as the Warhammer 40,000 Basic Rules, which is just the entire core rulebook.
Right. I mean, it's the rule book that matters without all the pictures and fluff and that stuff, which is what you want when you're trying to reference, oh, what does this rule mean? So quite useful. We'll see what happens with 10th edition and how they're changing stuff because of the whole one-page rules and free indexes and all that stuff. So this one, getting it out of the way because it's probably going to change.
I hope it's outdated and not just a worse scenario than currently.
Yeah, but food for thought, keep it in mind kind of thing for 10th edition. But let's move in to terrain. We've got some stuff. Let's set up the board.
So our second one here would be like your traps when you get into buying terrain when you're new. Because you're like probably a little bit overwhelmed when you're looking at buying into your army, buying rule books, trying to buy paint and hobby supplies, and then you want to buy terrain to play your game on.
Yeah.
And the first thing you'll be pressured to internally is, well, I'm buying Games Workshop models, I may as well buy Games Workshop terrain.
I mean, yeah, obviously, right? Because, like, they make plastic models, so they should be able to make terrain.
Basically, nobody uses GW terrain unless they're very rich and showing off on YouTube.
Or are supported and were sent it by somebody, basically.
GW terrain is expensive, prohibitively expensive. So like what is considered their best terrain packs to buy is the ruins, which are ruined walls sometimes, it depends, they change the packaging every 3 minutes, and pipes. Those two come with a decent amount of terrain in them for like $50 MSRP.
The pipes are pretty reasonable, honestly. You can do better, but the pipes are solid. The ruins, I'm not a huge fan of that aesthetic. I feel like it can be done better by others out there, but it's solid value if you enjoy that aesthetic.
The problem comes when you go to buy an actual ruined building.
Anything else.
The main terrain you'll be playing the game on, and you start seeing disturbing prices like $100 MSRP for a single piece of terrain, which boards usually have like 8+ of these.
Right, and I don't expect that to change drastically with 10th edition. Like, we're still going to have line of sight blocking things, and maybe even more with some of the rules that we've seen. They do look nice. I like some of the terrain that they put out. It's just so expensive for what you're getting and how much you need to have of it. It really is a trap.
Yeah, so instead of that, there's two solutions. The first one is alternative terrain pieces that are sold, which are places like Archon Studios, who makes the Rampart terrain, which is what we have a lot of, because we did a Kickstarter for that, and it actually was very good quality.
I've seen some stuff from Deep Cut Studio.
Yeah, like pre-painted terrain, like them. War World Gaming, I think, is another one.
And I do like the aspect of you can buy pre-painted stuff so that it's not quite as overwhelming of like build your models, paint them kind of stuff. And then also, hey, guess what? You have to build and paint terrain.
Yeah.
When they're already painted is like, okay, it's just that one extra step that you don't have to worry about. So that is nice. And the value's reasonable for it. There's a bunch of options out there.
Yeah, there's Pegasus, who makes some other terrain that we've turned into, well, some other model kits that we've turned into terrain. They like make model buildings that you just don't build at all.
Right. And I think that that is one of the key points there is you can look for the deals that like maybe it's not perfectly exactly what you want it to be, but you can perhaps not fully finish one wall or, you know, you don't have to use the whole thing. That type of stuff is pretty easy to do. It's not really like an in-depth kit bash. It's just like get to a point and stop building. And there are very good deals out there.
All of them are good deals compared to GW.
There is an alternative to even that, though.
Yeah, which is, look at the title of our podcast. You could pour hammer it.
Truly go with the pour hammer theme and, yeah, use whatever you got.
Our first game involved upside down bread pans and solo cups.
Yeah, I mean, we had those baking tins for many games.
Yeah, and the first game I played against Eric, the middle of the table, we had a giant ruin that was an Amazon shipping box.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can go super poor temporarily. If you want, like, a more permanent version of that solution, I recommend going to, like, Black Magic Craft, the YouTube channel. Fantastic channel, great for hobbying stuff in general. If you really want to, like, get into making your own terrain, that's where I'd point you. And then you can branch out from there.
And I think that there are a decent number of people who will actually really enjoy that aspect of just like making the terrain, custom making it to whatever you want it to be kind of thing. So, you know, it doesn't just have to be a monetary reason. You can also be like, oh, this is really cool. I want to do it.
Yeah, and you may find that's like your Zen hobby that you have on the side. Like, I enjoy doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our third one here. Wasting money on bad paints.
Paints in general, you can spend infinite dollars buying paint. One, because you buy expensive paint that you don't really need to have the most highest quality kind of thing, or it's just not a good value. And two, you can buy all of the different colors when you only need 5 for your orc skin.
You need 5 for your orc skin?
Hey, man.
The blend you're building up.
I didn't want to say 2. That's just embarrassing for orcs.
So...
Gotta make it sound good.
So yeah, there's a couple of the like famous culprits for bad paints. They're almost all GW.
Shocking.
The ones I would point out are like Abaddon Black, Corax White, several of the reds that aren't Mephiston Red, most of the yellows are all considered pretty awful.
Yeah.
Their contrast line is very good. I don't want to pretend I just hate GW as a brand. They've got good paints, but they have problematic ones. And all of their paints, no matter how good or bad they are expensive for what they are.
Yes.
I would recommend looking for other brands. You can mix paints of different brands together on a palette. They don't explode.
You can, and they won't explode. You might just end up with garbage, but you'll learn.
It's not the paint's problem that you mixed your red and your green and got brown.
Hey man, everybody's got to learn the color pie somewhere. Just because I made a lot of browns doesn't mean I didn't learn, okay?
The color pie, your magic podcast is leaking into your 40K podcast, Eric.
Hey, we just got done with another podcast recording. This is fair this time.
My go-to brands, if you're looking for like a good recommendation that you shouldn't be able to go too wrong with, Vallejo Model Color line. Vallejo Model Color Black is actual magic. It is the best black paint I have used for its price point. Their metal line is amazing. Can't go wrong. Pro Acryl is my other favorite brand. Also incredibly cheap. Both of these are cheaper than GW, and I consider them way safer bets. Pro Acryl White is the best white there is. I have never found a paint I like better for painting a model white.
Yeah, it really does a good job. Not only in like it looks like the color you want it to do, it also covers really well.
It's the only white that covers well that I use.
To the point that like if you're trying to get better coverage from another color, use it as a mix.
Yeah, that's good too, honestly. And it's better than like painting even like I don't like their ivory, bright ivory. Their white is just better coverage than their bright ivory, which is counterintuitive when you look at other brands, but whatever. Yeah, so both of those, huge fans of like the vast majority of those lines. You can't really go wrong. There are other brands totally acceptable. You'll find plenty of advice elsewhere about those, but I just wanted you to have an idea for not just blindly grabbing Citadel off the shelf then complaining that you wasted money.
And if you're looking at going like really cheap at like the local like whatever store bargain bin stuff, be careful and at the very least use very thin layers of paint.
Yeah, thinning your paints will save even most bad paints. At worst, then all you have is bad coverage.
Exactly. So if you have the cheaper end, like, you know, you got bargain bin type paint stuff, thin it down, make sure that you don't glob it on, which is a common problem of the cheaper paints. You'll have to do a bit more work because the coverage may be a bit worse, but whatever. It's better to have more steps to get to the end result than, oh, I've already filled in all of the gaps with paint and there's nothing I can do about it other than take it apart.
My fourth one here is basically the same thing, but with primer. When you're starting out, people will avoid airbrushes, which is wrong, but we're going to ignore that fact for right now. And they will spend a ton of money on rattle cans or spray paint, whatever we want to call it. The British have infected my mind, so now I say rattle can.
Why? Do you not think it, like, I mean, obviously when you shake it goes rattle, rattle.
That's true. So GW brand primer is outrageously expensive. There's a couple other brands when it's like a miniature paint primer.
Fuck all of those.
It's all bullshit. It's not real.
It really is. Like, I can get behind some of the GW paints. They're expensive. Okay, whatever. They do something kind of unique. Sure. The primer is primer. It'll do the job, but so will something that's a third the price. It'll do just as good.
And honestly, sometimes better, having used multiple of these brands, including GW.
Yeah, primer is ubiquitous, essentially. You just need to make sure like it's a real primer and go to your local hardware store.
Yeah, GW is like $20+, over $30 for certain colors, for a single can of spray paint.
Is honestly insane.
Go to Home Depot, or whatever your equivalent is, pick up like some Rust-Oleum 2X primer. If I haven't airbrushed a mini, I used this on it.
Yeah.
It works perfect.
Yeah, it does a fantastic job.
Just grab like a black or a gray and be done with it.
Yeah, they don't have all of the colors, but that's okay. If you do black or gray, you'll be able to build into the other colors with good paints, like, and actually paint your model. Don't waste your money on the expensive model primers.
Number 5 here, one last kick to GW. Sorry I keep picking on you right here, GW, but this one is don't buy overpriced specialized tools when you're trying to buy stuff for your first models. You can build a model with a pair of hobby cutters, tin snips, whatever you want to call them, the basic things to cut off, whatever you want to call your little snippers that you use to cut them off the sprue.
They're not really scissors, but
the scissors would probably do the job. I might aim away from the model.
Yeah, just be very careful.
A pair of $10 hobby cutters, maybe an X-Acto knife to clean some stuff up, some some Tamiya plastic cement or another brand if you can't get a hold of Tamiya, whatever. It's just the brand I like. Basic ability to read the instruction manual. That's all it takes to put your models together.
Yeah, and by that, like, the toughest part is the ability to read. And, you know, we all have our shortcomings, but I believe in you. We can do it.
And then for painting, you just need paint, a brush, and something to act as a palette, which can literally be like a paper plate. And you can move up to fancier stuff, but that's the bare minimum all you need.
I do really like the ceramic ones, but paper plates work perfectly.
So we've done ceramic ones like the little flower. Those are fantastic. You can buy them for like $10 on Amazon. Or if you want to be real cheap about it,
You could just get a piece of tile.
that's what we used to use. Is we would go to Home Depot. You buy like a square white tile from the tile section. They're like $2 a tile. Go buy one tile from Home Depot.
It works. Honestly, it does.
They're great. You just use hot water and the paint will come right off it.
Yeah, or you use a knife and just...
Or you don't learn about using hot water and you use a knife to scrape it off while it's dry like a psychopath. I love our play group.
It works, you know? It works. But, yeah, paper plates also work. Like, we don't need all of these specialty tools. Yes, some of them make the job easier.
Some of them are a total scam.
But until you've gotten into the hobby, you don't need to fall prey to those scams.
You don't need a special holder for your model while you paint it. You just hold it by its base. If you don't want to hold it by the base, put some blue tack onto a cup or something and put it on top of that.
Yeah, one of the ones is like if you've got an old ibuprofen bottle or something like that, that it fits your hand, you just smack some tape or something, or blue tack would work.
Or the top of that GW paint pot you hate.
Yeah, that too. So there are uses out of some of these specialty tools, but until you know that you want it and you have a reason to wanting it, stay away, and then you'll realize if you want it or not.
All right, number 6 is situational, but less than you would think. When buying models, check that you're not buying a model that would be cheaper in a combo set.
Yeah.
So like right now, in the current edition, it's all about to change with 10th edition, but I'm betting Tyrannies is going to have the exact same example next edition.
That would make sense, yes.
Necron Warriors are $50 MSRP. The Recruit Edition Intro to 40k set is $50 MSRP. It comes with the entire Warriors set.
Yeah.
An HQ for Space Marines.
And an entire Space Marine thing.
A nice little thematic little cardboard board. Some random garbage dice. A bunch of other stuff. The point is, you literally get free stuff by not ever buying the Necron Warriors.
And this is, like you said, situational, but it's happened multiple times in the past of like, take a look at what the boxed sets have and what the kind of value of them are if you're trying to buy singleton units.
This is about to become dated, but in Seraphon, if you want to get the Carnosaur, the exact same price to get all the free models with the Carnosaur in the intro set.
Yeah, and I get if you're just new to the hobby, you probably won't know that until it's too late kind of thing.
But luckily, if you're new to the hobby, you probably started with something that was like a combo set anyway.
Yeah, but also, if you have friends or know somebody that's getting into the hobby, give them this advice. Don't let them fail at good value buys.
Speaking of a good value buy, this one is exceptionally common. This exists in almost every army.
Oh, I hate this one so much.
Bad kits. This isn't saying the data sheet is bad.
No, this has nothing to do with balance or rules.
This is a kit that is a scam.
It is. It really is.
Let's go with the classic example, the Impulsor. It's in every value box to make all the Space Marine value boxes look like great deals.
Because the Impulsor's $80.
The Gladiator Reaper is $90, and you may say, what does that have to do with the Impulsor? The Gladiator builds every Gladiator variant and the Impulsor for $10 more.
Yep.
You don't even need magnets. The top will pop on and off.
Yeah.
It's the same model.
It is the same base model with extra and all of the other options.
Almost every Space Marine vehicle has a thing like this where there's like a base form, and then for $5 more you get one that builds 3 different vehicles.
Yeah.
The same thing exists for Drukhari with the Raider and the Ravager. It exists all over the place where you can find out like, oh, there's the like $50 version of this kit, or for $55 for this other kit, and that contains both. So buying Impulsors, not a wise investment.
No. And like you said, there are others that follow the similar trend.
Number 8 This one is one that we harp on constantly in our intro-focused episodes. Never buy things at MSRP. And obviously when we say never, we're saying as a last resort.
Yeah, availability and all that stuff matters, but at the very least, when Amazon's going to give you a discount, you should be basing it off of that discount.
Yeah, so on Amazon, Games Workshop sells everything for 15% less than on their own store. Games Workshop sells it for that price. You can find 15% off basically anywhere. 15% is a lot of money when you start getting into a hobby like Warhammer or any other tabletop hobby that's of this scale. You can go lower even with certain local game stores near you, hopefully. There's a local game store finder on GW's website. It will, because they're a distributor, it shows where they distribute their goods to. So figure out where near you sells models and see if they've got good deals. If they don't, go check the next store and so on. Another option is Miniswap on Reddit, which is a subreddit I've used a lot.
Yeah.
It's dangerous if you've had a little to drink.
Yeah, you've ran into some weird ones, but I mean, it's also why I'm into Grey Knights.
Yeah, that got you a lot of Grey Knights. But on Miniswap, you can find a bunch of deals for bulk buying, like into an army if someone's trying to sell out of one of their armies they don't play much. Lots of stuff like that. People splitting box sets up where they only wanted one half and didn't have someone to split it with.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big ones is like if there's a box set coming out, which, hey, guess what? There's one coming out for 10th. There's going to be people that are like, I only want this box for this half, and it's a good value for that half. But if anybody else is looking at the other half, hey, I'll give it to you for pretty cheap.
Yeah, I wholly recommend using Miniswap. eBay is fine for picking stuff up for cheaper prices. You can get used stuff on eBay. I think FLG's secondhand store is a great place.
Yeah, but fuck eBay.
Well, FLG's secondhand store you can use either on eBay or on their website.
Yeah, that's personal opinion here.
I'm with you. I've used eBay to buy stuff for $40K, but also I hate eBay.
I get burned on trying eBay every time I try. Like, something goes wrong with it. So it's like I have a visceral reaction against eBay. But if you haven't had those negative experiences, you can find good deals. And you can find some that are just like, hey, I had this old stuff. I found it. It's a bin of bits.
Yeah, those are great too.
That could be a great value.
And speaking of bits, Eric, our final one, number 9, is do a little research as you're getting into an army. Don't try to buy everything in a day type thing. Spend some time looking at the community for your army. There's usually advice when you're getting in of like, hey, never buy this kit. Buy this other kit and you can kit bash the other kit.
Right. Like some sprues will have extra bits on it that you won't need, and you'll have those extra to kit bash and alter another kit into something with more options or something like that.
Orcs is famously interchangeable. There's a bunch of stuff. If you talk to orc players, they'll be like, you can do this, this, and this to build these things. You don't ever have to buy the official model for it. Or you can get a ton of extra legs out of, buying a value box and one extra box of knobs or something, and you can make like 6 extra units of things.
Orcs have a lot, and there's a lot of good tricks that you can get the most value out of all the models. There's a very good video by the Red Ones Go Fasta. There'll be a link in the show notes, but it goes over how to optimize just a few boxes into a kitted out army. And also it looks legit, like it's not just hacked together, and it really kind of showcases what you can do with kit bashing to take advantage of good value from boxes that might not be the most value oriented originally.
As an equivalent to the orcs thing, in Drukhari we've got the famous example of basically nobody puts the models onto their transports. We tend to just use them as extra bits to make more dudes. So when you look at like the Drukhari combat patrol, you can get like an extra 10 Kabalite warriors out of the people who are hanging off of the boats. There's examples like this in a ton of different armies though, and learning those can be a big help when you're getting into an army and avoiding just bad kits in general. Like again, back to Drukhari, there's the famous grotesques are still fine cast. I hope that gets fixed at some point, but that's the case right now. So most people will say you can do a whole bunch of kit bashes, like you can base them off like the Wolfen or the Vargeist from AOS and use those as the core body and mix them with the Talos/Chronos kit, because that comes with a ton of spare bits. Tons of stuff you can do to avoid buying the grotesque that's fine cast.
That also happens in Space Marines, where like they only give you so many of a type of weapon. If you want to do a full loadout, then you have to worry about getting multiple of those boxes or having things like a combat patrol and then some other stuff and put it together. And so it's just one of those that there are good guides out there for how to maximize your value by kit bashing a few boxes together into, exactly what you want. But one of the tough parts about this type of thing is it requires a decent amount of research and previous knowledge. So it's tough for somebody that's new to get into this kind of thing, but luckily there are YouTube videos that help quite a bit.
All right, so that's all we've got, but I am sure there is more advice. If you are new and looking for this advice, please head down to the comment section on the YouTube video. There is more advice from friendly people there. Hopefully some of it is even good or correcting our terrible advice.
Yeah.
If you didn't need this info but enjoyed it anyway, try to add on to it to help other people out.
Yeah, I mean, we've only really been doing this for 9th edition, basically, a little bit of 8th at the end there, but there are many other people that have been playing Warhammer for substantially longer, and I'm sure that there are general trends throughout the editions that you might have some knowledgeable feedback on.
And there's more advanced tips you can get into later, but these will cover your early regrets, I think.
And part of it is because a lot of these are early regrets that we've had.
Absolutely.
A lot of this list is from personal experience. These are the things we fell to. Hopefully others don't as well.
I have a bunch of unused GW paints I bought when we were new.
Yeah, that happens.
All right, that's enough of us this week, though. Let's get out of here.
Sounds good.